NATO leaders are holding an emergency video conference later to discuss the unfolding crisis in Afghanistan. Well, joining me now to talk about what to expect from that meeting is Jamie Shea. He's a former Deputy Assistant Secretary General at NATO. Well, thanks for taking time to speak to us here again on the programme. What's going to be on the agenda?
Well, it's first of all, Tox, good news that NATO is holding this meeting because the EU foreign ministers have met, the G7 foreign ministers have met, the UN Security Council, of course, and it would be strange if NATO foreign ministers would not have a similar meeting, given, of course, the very large responsibility that NATO has had in Afghanistan over the last 20 years. On the agenda, one immediate issue and a number of longer-term issues. The immediate issue is to get a grip on the evacuations taking place from Kabul airport. I have the impression that nearly everybody is sort of organising it along purely national lines at the moment, whereas NATO had the coordinating responsibility for the airport for many years. So I think the first thing tomorrow is a decision by NATO that it's going to work together to coordinate all of these evacuations and to get them under control.
Let me just get in a question there, though, because we're limited for time now, Jamie. You spent so long, years walking and treading in these corridors of power. If you could speak to Jens Stoltenberg, what would you be telling him right now?
Well, I think the key thing, of course, for the alliance is to, first of all, make a success of the evacuations, so salve as much from the wreckage as it possibly can. Secondly, it's going to have to anticipate over the next couple of years that, unfortunately, because of the debacle in Afghanistan, terrorism is going to be on the rise again. Everybody's been anticipating that. We know that Al-Qaeda, ISIL are already well implanted. We know that foreign fighters are coming in. So NATO is going to have to anticipate eventually a shockwave of more terrorist attacks in the United States and Europe, and how we anticipate those, how we deal with those, how we try to foil them so that we avoid another 9/11 style spectacular. The third thing I would say to the Secretary General, although he probably doesn't need my advice, is that we need to work now much harder with Russia, with China, with Pakistan, to really send a message to the Taliban regime about how we expect them to behave and try to constrain their behaviour, particularly in regard to terrorism, as much as we possibly can.
So would you say a rise in terrorism or a resurgence perhaps in Islamic terrorism is therefore now inevitable?
I would say yes, because we know that Al-Qaeda and ISIL are already implanted in Afghanistan. In fact, ISIL has been responsible for many we've seen over the last year or so. And we know that foreign fighters are now flooding in anticipation that they will have a home there. The Taliban say that they want to break those links, but whether they are sincere or whether they really can are things that we need to put in question.
Jamie Shea, former Deputy Assistant Secretary General at NATO, thanks very much again for giving us your time.